Bloodline, the gruesome murder of a father by his son. A legacy drenched in blood. On a cold spring morning in April 2024, the quiet, working-class neighborhood of Maple Heights, Ohio, woke to the shrill sound of sirens. What began as a routine 911 call from a teenage girl turned into a grotesque discovery that would shake the community to its core. Inside a two-story colonial-style house on Hazel Ridge Avenue, police found a man lying face down in a pool of blood, his body savagely mutilated, with stab wounds so deep and violent they left seasoned officers shaken. The man was Nathan Dwyer, a 52-year-old U.S. Army veteran and high school teacher. But it wasn't a break-in. There was no sign of forced entry. The suspect sat calmly on the porch, soaked in his father's blood, waiting to be arrested. It was Raymond's 23-year-old son, Nathan Dwyer. A promising boy turned recluse. A son turned killer. A bloodline shattered by its own hand. A fractured home. To understand this tragedy, we must first go back, long before the blade was lifted, into the world behind the white picket fence of the Dwyer family. Raymond Dwyer was a respected man in Maple Heights. A decorated Gulf War veteran, he returned home to teach high school history, quickly becoming a pillar in the community. His students described him as intense, strict, but fair. He was the kind of teacher who remembered every war date but never missed a kid's name. Yet behind that structured exterior was a man who demanded perfection from everyone around him, especially his family. His wife, Elena, met Raymond in college. Their love was passionate but stormy. Within a few years of marriage, the cracks began to show. Friends recall Elena being vibrant and social until she wasn't. As time went on, she became quieter, withdrawn, and visibly anxious in public. Rumors began to circulate. Elena finally left the home in 2018, citing emotional and psychological abuse in private divorce documents. She would later say, "I didn't leave my children. I fled my prison." Raymond was granted full custody of their two children, Nathan, then 17, and Chloe, 10. With Elena gone, Raymond's grip on the household tightened. The home ran like a military barracks: early wake-ups, no electronics, assigned chores, scheduled meals. Nathan, once a creative and curious boy, felt crushed under his father's expectations. He had loved music, outer space, and building model cities from cardboard. But as the years passed, his laughter disappeared. His school performance slipped. His friendships dissolved. He spent more and more time in isolation, first in his room, then in the basement. He rarely smiled. His notebooks filled with dark, cryptic drawings. One teacher described it as watching a flower starve in real time. The unraveling. After high school, Nathan briefly enrolled in a local community college but dropped out after one semester. He began working odd jobs: grocery bagger, warehouse helper, stockroom assistant, but none lasted more than a few months. Employers described him as quiet, moody, and prone to zoning out. Back home, Raymond became increasingly disappointed in his son. He saw Nathan's struggles as laziness, a failure of discipline. Their arguments grew louder, more frequent. Chloe, still in high school, often overheard them through her bedroom wall. In one chilling journal entry recovered later, she wrote, "Dad says Nathan is broken. Nathan says Dad broke him." What no one saw, or chose not to see, was a young man slipping further into a mental breakdown. Nathan had begun to self-isolate, creating a bunker-like space in the basement. His room was littered with survival manuals, conspiracy books, and printouts of military tactics. He kept a journal, over 200 pages, filled with rage, despair, and haunting lines like, "The blood that made me also poisoned me." He doesn't see a son. He sees a soldier gone rogue. To escape the cage, the beast must be slain. His mind was spiraling, and no one intervened. The breaking point, the final descent began in early April 2024. Nathan had recently lost another job, this time for threatening a coworker who accidentally took his lunch. At home, tensions were high. Raymond accused him of being a disgrace and threatened to kick him out if he didn't become a man. The most explosive argument happened on the evening of April 17th. According to police reports and neighbor accounts, Yelling could be heard down the block. Raymond reportedly accused Nathan of stealing $120 from his wallet. Nathan denied it. The confrontation turned physical. Chloe later told investigators she heard a loud crash and the words, "If you won't leave this house, I'll bury you under it." Nathan didn't sleep that night. According to phone records and laptop history, he spent hours online searching phrases like, "Fastest way to kill with a knife," "Stab wounds, fatal locations." Can self-defense apply to family murder? At 4:39 a.m., he typed his final search. How many stabs to make someone stop moving? The murder. Just before 6 a.m., as Raymond made coffee in the kitchen, Nathan emerged from the basement in a dark hoodie. He clutched a large butcher knife he'd taken from the knife block earlier and hidden under his hoodie sleeve. Raymond didn't see him coming. The first stab pierced his back. Raymond screamed and turned, managing to grab Nathan by the arm, but Nathan overpowered him. In a frenzied attack, he stabbed his father 11 times, 6 to the chest, 1 to the neck, and the rest to the arms and back. Raymond collapsed, bleeding out on the kitchen floor. Chloe, awakened by the screams and crashes, rushed downstairs and froze at the scene. She described her brother standing over their father, breathing heavily, the knife still in hand, dripping. She ran to the bathroom, locked the door, and called 911. When officers arrived minutes later, they found Nathan sitting on the porch, calm, almost vacant. When asked what happened, he replied coldly, "He made the rules. I ended them. The bloodline ends with me." The trial. Nathan was immediately arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The trial that followed drew nationwide attention. Some called it the patricide of Maple Heights. Others dubbed Nathan the basement son. The prosecution presented a chilling case. They displayed journal entries, online searches, and the knife, still stained with blood. They argued Nathan had meticulously planned the murder and executed it with brutal precision. They showed the jury drawings of blood-splattered figures with captions like, "No more silence." But the defense revealed the trauma behind the act. They called mental health experts who diagnosed Nathan with borderline personality disorder, complex PTSD, and emotional detachment disorder, all exacerbated by long-term emotional abuse. Nathan Dwyer returned to testify in her son's defense, recounting her years with Raymond. She described his coldness, his strict discipline, and his cruelty behind closed doors. Her voice cracked as she said, "Nathan didn't grow up with a father. He grew up with a commander." Chloe, now 16, declined to testify but submitted a letter to the judge. "My brother killed our father. But I know in my heart, my father killed something inside my brother long ago." After 6 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty of second-degree murder. Nathan Dwyer was sentenced to 35 years in prison without the possibility of parole.